I'm Sue Selk. I'm dual credit instructional coordinator for EPCC, along with my partner in crime here, Lorena Gonzalez, who's also a dual credit instructional coordinator. Tony Badillo, Dean of Dual Credit and Early College High School, is also with us, as is Luz Cadena, who is the Distance Learning Support Services Director. And we are really happy that you are here with us. I hope that your semester is going to get, or is getting off to a really good start, and you've seen some good faculty development sessions already. For those of you in the high school, you're already probably at work. Our agenda, which is the next slide. There we go. Some quick, actually, we have a few items, but there's quite a bit to some of the items. The importance of the facilitator role. EPCC instructor information, because hopefully we'll have some instructors in here as well. And then Luz will take over and talk everything Blackboard, distance learning, support services. And we can do Q&A afterwards, but certainly you can ask questions throughout the presentation as well. So just out of curiosity, if you can, and I know for some of you, you might, because you're outside of the organization, you might not be able to do this, but just out of curiosity, could you raise your hand if you were a brand new facilitator? I'm just trying to see who's in the room here. Oh, 4, 13, ooh, 14, 15, 18, 24. 24, any more? That's 25. That's wonderful. That's great. It isn't that we don't want seasoned facilitators in here, 26. And people are lowering their hands now. It's not that we don't want seasoned facilitators. Of course, we want instructors, administrators. Everyone is welcome. But it's nice to know that we have the brand new facilitators, because this information is particularly pertinent to you. For the rest of you, you've probably heard some of this before, but it never hurts to refresh your memory. Okay, how about the first slide? So I guess we need to start out with the question, why do you need to have a facilitator? And in some ways, I guess it's because we said so kind of answer. It's because it's a requirement of our EPCC procedure, GH2. You can see it right there, and there's a link to the procedure. And it says that all high schools need to designate a high school facilitator for students enrolled in online courses. So, there's that procedure aspect to it. But, very early on, way back when we first started to ramp up dual credit again, one of the things that we realized was that our expectations for having a bunch of instructors in the classrooms hadn't been met yet, right? So online courses really became what was requested. Not that there weren't some instructors in the high schools, and so the need for a facilitator was an urgent need, right? For somebody to be there for support. So that's why it's in the procedure, and it also fulfills a need. Okay. Did you have anything to add, Lorena?
No, very good.
So let's get into the importance of the facilitator and your role as a facilitator. You're there to provide support and content. Yes.
So I'm also a sign language interpreter, and I need my camera on.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry about that.
No. If there's anybody else, please just let me know in the chat, and I'll make it right away.
Anybody else? Do you have it, Lorena, or just tell me when I can start again?
Is that anybody else? Belen, do you need your camera enabled?
I'm sorry, this is the interpreter. I think for Belen, it's okay if her camera's off. It's just for the interpreters.
Okay, so we're good, everybody. Okay, thank you.
Very good. Thanks for speaking up.
Your dad's
Um,
gonna eat now?
So let's back up a little bit here into the, talk about the importance of the facilitator role. Don't forget to mute your mics. You're there to provide support and contact. You're going to go over the syllabus. You're going to be there in the very beginning to help them with any initial difficulties that they have in navigating. It really is part of your role to make sure that everybody gets into Blackboard. And if there are any difficulties, Luz is going to go over what you do if you have difficulties with that. She can help you with that. You're also there to really encourage them and help them to understand that they are college students in this course, right? And so it takes a little while for them to understand that. And so having you there for support as to what that actually should mean and how they can behave is a very important part of your role. An independent learner, and being an independent learner is a very important part of that, right? You can kind of start out with more support, and then eventually they should be able to learn to do these things on their own, as a college student has to do. And also to advocate for themselves. There's nothing wrong with you contacting the instructor of record, and that can be important sometimes, but it's also very important for the student to learn to do that for themselves, especially if it's a concern that they have, right? So encouraging them to do that is also very important. This is, of course, a dual credit course, but it's a college course taken for dual credit. Dean Badillo is very adamant about not calling these courses dual credit courses. They're college courses. We've heard it before, right? College courses taken for dual credit. Another thing that we don't have on the slide that I've added the past couple of times is also providing a quiet space, because in the enrollment roster form, it says that there's a certain room and a certain time of day, and you're there to provide almost like a calm or study hall kind of environment, because for some students that might be some of the only time they have to even complete assignments or take a look at the assignments. And so it's very important that you provide some calm for them to be able to complete their assignments. Different schools have different ways in which they do this. Some do labs, some do classrooms. But now that most students have Chromebooks or their own computers, I think that a lot of the classes are in the regular classroom. I know that some schools actually have guidance about exactly what it is you are going to do as a facilitator too. And I was texting with one this morning, a facilitator, and she was describing what her school district requires of facilitators. And I was interested to hear about that. I was encouraged by that. Another thing that we ask you to do is to remind your students that your EPCC instructors don't have access to your school's portals. I have many dual credit students, and I can't tell you how many times I get the document shared through the SISD or YISD portal. I can't do that. So I don't have access to that. So their instructors are going to have rules about how to submit assignments in Blackboard. I require, a Word document. They can write it right in the assignment window, or they can attach a PDF file, and they have access through EPCC for Word and for converting into a PDF file on the web. So just remind them that, a lot of instructors won't even allow them to send things through like links or, anything like that, because oftentimes they don't have access to it. And so it just complicates grading. So reminding them of that is something that we ask you to do as well. Okay, the next slide. Occasionally there are some issues that can occur, and it's particularly even on the instructor's side, right? So if there is no facilitator named, Or in particularly, oftentimes what happens is a facilitator is named early on when the course is requested, and they might go through two or three people before before they actually end up with a facilitator, but they don't update the form. And so the instructor might ask their coordinator, well, who's the facilitator for this class? But that's not going to be the correct answer because the facilitator has changed along the way. So just understanding that, and if I've taken to actually asking my students to give me their facilitator's contact information, and that actually works pretty well. Another part of one of the issues that sometimes comes about is this kind of confusion over the role of a facilitator. And Lorena, I'm going to mention this. I know there's a slide about access to Blackboard, but I'm going to mention it right now. I think what happened, I don't know how many years ago now, but facilitators used to have guest access to Blackboard. And so you were able to get in and you were able to at least look at the syllabus and I think view the assignments and due dates and things like that. Well, when we went to a single sign-on for EPCC, that went away for facilitators. And I think what happened for a while was facilitators felt a little locked out of the process. But I don't think that should deter you. I think that you can ask the instructor for a copy of the syllabus. There are other ways to find the syllabus, but you can. I encourage my students to just share the syllabus. Tony Badillo has her hand up to share to share the syllabus with their facilitator. There's nothing wrong with you looking over their shoulders also. Tony, what did you have to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that even back in the day when facilitators had guest access to Blackboard, they could not view grades. And
Right.
so it was only, viewing the syllabus, which is accessible now on the EPCC website as well.
Right, right. Yeah, it was a limited thing, but I do think, thank you, Tony. I do think that it created a little bit of a difficulty, I think, for some people. But you still have an important role. I guess that's what we're trying to emphasize here. Okay, next slide. This brings us to talking a little bit about the role in terms of the relationship between you as a facilitator and the instructor of record. And I don't think you should have one expectation for what that might be, because it's going to vary, right? Some instructors really like a very close working relationship with their facilitators, and others maybe not so much. That still doesn't mean that you shouldn't contact them if you need to contact them and to reach out. But I think it's between the two of you to kind of figure out how you're going to work together. And like I said, Lorena and I have heard from many people who really like to have a little bit more involved facilitator, and they rely on that. But some instructors do not. Some facilitators, and some of you or all of you, may be highly qualified, certified in the subject matter. I teach speech, so there might be a person in the high school who is the speech teacher, but maybe doesn't have a master's degree yet. And so, we don't find anything wrong with you giving them support. You're not teaching them and you're not setting any of the assignments, but to kind of give them some support because you are an expert in that field is all right. And that's something that we don't mind you doing. But then again, there are some people who are not. It just depends on the school. Smaller schools sometimes have somebody who's maybe in a support position or something like that as a facilitator. And that might lead to a little bit more hands-off. This is maybe more for the instructors that are in here, if we have some, just to know that it's not always necessarily a teacher who is a facilitator. And then sometimes there are changes to facilitators and we aren't notified. So that does kind of, as I said before, does kind of make it harder to know who the facilitator is. Like I said, as an instructor, I ask the students now, and they've been very forthcoming. They give me the email address and everything's great. If I haven't heard from the facilitator ahead of time, which I oftentimes do. Okay. Are there any questions? I guess I haven't asked that. If there are, we'll have some time. I'm getting toward the end, so we have some time in between Lorena and I if we do have questions. You know, communication is key between both the instructor and the facilitator. We do encourage you to establish your contact early in the semester with the instructor of record. If the instructor contacts you, please respond quickly to any messages from the instructor. I know there are some times when I have students who are not engaging in the course. And so, you know, it's been a good thing in a couple of cases that I've actually asked them, you know, what they're up to because what the students are up to, because sometimes the student is gone or sometimes the student is sick and they haven't contacted me. So that's something that's important. And also remember that they need to report any difficulties that they have, especially with computers, as soon as they occur, and they need to contact you. If they are having a computer problem, they need to tell you so you can help get it fixed, because the instructors oftentimes, I've had a case where I had a student who was gone for about 4 weeks and he said he had a computer problem and he missed a whole bunch of work because of it, and the facilitator didn't know. So I encourage you to encourage your students to report any of those computer problems. Okay.
We have a question in the chat.
Okay, are we allowed to ask? Yes, I mean, Maria Pace, are we allowed to ask students for grades to make sure students are engaging in the course? Yes, you can, and there is nothing wrong with you looking over a student's shoulder. That's not a FERPA violation, as you are in their school and you are a teacher in the school. So you are absolutely allowed. In fact, it's better if you ask the student as opposed to the instructor.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about how to communicate grades and progress in the course in a few slides. So
Right.
good segue into the next part.
Yes, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I think this is my last slide. Yes, maybe not.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And that is student evaluation of instructor performance. You know, back in the day, we used to actually send out packets with paper evaluations of the instructor, the online instructor, in this case, performance. But we do everything virtually now. And so your students are going to receive in their My EPCC email this email that has this particular QR code and in the instructions. And this is going to occur probably 2 or 3, isn't it, Lorena, weeks before the end of the semester. So if you could start reminding them to check their EPCC email, they should do that anyway. And I know that it's hard for them with so many emails and everything, but if they need to do that and check that EPCC, My EPCC email, so that they can fill out their evaluation of their instructor. This is particularly important now because the submission of these has really dropped off because it's online now. And when people are going through tenure, the instructors who need these as a part of showing their performance in the classroom, it can be very difficult. So it's very important that these students fill out these instructor performance evaluations. So if you can remind them I'd say remind them about 3 weeks toward the end of the semester, that would be great. Did you have anything else to add?
No, I think you covered everything. It's also part of our accreditation, so those evaluations and everything we have to turn in is very important. So we ask for your help in that. Just a reminder again, as Sue mentioned, when we switched over to that single sign-on implementation, that facilitators, high school facilitators lost access to Blackboard. I know Luce will probably talk about this in her section, but we've tried to figure stuff out. If we figure something out in the future, maybe we'll be able to get back, but this is where we are at the moment. Any other questions so far? All right, so this is a new section. Sue and I always think about how we can update these presentations because we know we have some people logging in multiple times. But for our instructors, for our EPCC instructors, what do you do when you have dual credit early college students in your own online sections? So a lot of times we don't know who the students are, what schools they come from. So if you look at your self-service banner roster, you'll notice dual enrollment or ECHS enrollment. Those are the designations you'll have. You can always email your dean's office. Your dean's office has access to a database that can pull what schools each of your students are in. I know certain online sections may have students from multiple high schools, so you can distinguish those. You can also email our enrollment office for dual credit early college. There is Griselda's information. I hope she doesn't mind that I passed around her email, but they can help you figure out who your facilitator is. Now, the problem is, as Sue mentioned, sometimes those facilitators get changed between when the course is requested to when the semester starts. So if you get an email or if you hear somebody get an email from an EPCC instructor asking, are you the facilitator for my course, but you are no longer that facilitator, please help us and pass along the information if you do know who is taking over that role so that we can make those connections that Sue was talking about. So if we can work together in that. I know there was a question about, is there a list of facilitators? There isn't because of all those changes and the growth that we've experienced. So this is one way we can make that connection. So we hope you can help us with that. Moving on, textbooks. We know this has slowly, it was a big issue back in the day. It got figured out, and then now I think we're seeing another trend on it. We do have multiple ways of accessing textbooks. We have OER, we have access codes, we have regular traditional textbooks. So if you want to please EPCC instructors check in with your dual credit early college students early in the semester, make sure they know where to find their textbook, who to contact at their high school to get their textbook, whether it's a facilitator or a counselor or another dual credit contact. Each district has different methods for how they purchase their textbook, whether it's some program or they just go directly to the publisher. We want to make sure those students have access to that material at the start, right? That's technically the rules there. So help us with that. Make sure you're checking in with those students. And speaking of the students, as Sue has mentioned a few times, she herself just directly asks her dual credit students or early college students, who is your facilitator, right? Do you have a textbook? How are you going to get the textbook? So I don't know if there was some stigma about asking students things, but they're your students. They're college students when they're in your courses. So please feel free to reach out to your college and early college and dual credit students directly with all of these questions. I've done that in the past as well at the start of the semester. What high school are you at? Even asking like what are their goals for their course and everything. Just starting that relationship in case, as Sue mentioned, something happens with the student, right? You have another way of reaching out to them. So communication, I think is the name of the game here. Questions so far? All right, so grades. And we talked, I think there was another question about can we look at grades? So you cannot, as an EPCC instructor, as a facilitator, directly communicate numerical grades, but you can pass along student progress. There is a document in our dual credit website for student progress, and I think it's even labeled for dual credit early college students, which is great. It's a student academic progress report. The student can email that, send it to their instructor. The instructor fills out the progress, gives a general outline of what's happening, and then the student has access to that information in that way. For the grades at the end of the semester, though, final grades, again, they don't go through the facilitator, through the instructor. Our EPCC instructors upload grades like we normally do for our traditional classes. Then the EPCC registrar's office sends those grades directly to the districts and the schools. So there's no touching of grades between facilitator and instructor. It's all done through the official offices. For FERPA questions, Sue mentioned FERPA earlier. We do have our Associate Director of Admissions and Registrar, Robert Garcia, who is our FERPA contact. I know there's been some changes in recent years of how we approach FERPA, but I think we're in a good place on that right here. Any other questions? I know Dean Bevio is answering some in the chat. So far, so good. Okay. For other resources for both instructors, EPCC instructors, and high school facilitators, we do have some documents on our dual credit website. We have our handbook for facilitators, just gives an overview of how things will work. And we also implemented in the last few semesters a quick info sheet where we point out a few common questions or issues that we've heard happen in recent semesters. Things like your high schools have intercession. EPCC does not do intercession. So the expectation that the students are still working in that, we want to make sure we get that message across to the students because, you know, at that point they are college students. So feel free to take a look at this. The website link is below, but if you just go to the EPCC general site, if you click academics on the menu on the right, you'll see the dual credit, and then there's a document section there as well. This PowerPoint is already up there, so if you want to start looking at it now, you have access to it, and we'll update it once the recording is finalized. All right, any other questions? Sue, is there anything we wanted to add? Anything else? You're muted, Sue.
Yes, I am. I was afraid you're going to hear my dogs back there. No, I think we've pretty much said it all. Hopefully, if we've left anything out, people will ask some questions.
Yes. Okay, then if there's no more questions, then we will pass it along to Luz.
Hello, everyone. I'm Luz Cadena, Director of Distance Learning. So I wanted to share some information with you with regard to Blackboard and how to support students in their use of Blackboard. So let's continue. All right, so first of all, students will access Blackboard through My EPCC, the EPCC intranet portal. Students need their usernames and their password to log in. Now, that is probably one of the biggest hurdles we have to overcome the first week of class. It's dual credit students, especially brand new students, not knowing their login and their password. So they themselves can find their login name using the account recovery page. All they need is their EPCC ID number, which typically they don't know either. But that should be on the roster that you're presented, their EPCC ID, their college ID. It's a number that starts with the number 8. And having that ID, they can plug it into the account recovery and it'll give them their username. Then they can then use that username to reset their password. But here's where we run into some issues. In order to reset your password, you have to have a personal email in Banner, our student information system, because Banner will send a reset your password link to that email so that you can reset your password. And students either didn't put an email on their application, so it's not in Banner, or they put their parents' email, or they made up an email, or a whole lot of other scenarios. So sometimes that can be an issue. Now, what I do want to stress is that distance learning does not oversee college logins. Distance learning is not an IT department. We are an instructional department, and college access, the logins, are all controlled by IT, including Blackboard. So yes, you need that EPCC login to get into Blackboard, but we don't even see those oversee those logins into Blackboard. They are college-wide. So students will need to call 915-831-6440 for assistance with setting up their password. Keep in mind that the first week of school, that number is very busy, and there will be a long line, a long queue. So first step is to get students to try to reset their own passwords using that account recovery page. Okay, and I think the next slide shows an image of how to access that account recovery page. Yes, it does. So you log in, or not log into, but you go to www.epcc.edu. You click on the menu on the right-hand corner, top right-hand corner, the 3 dots, the hamburger. And on that menu that pops up on the right-hand side, you see the account recovery link. Simply click on that and it takes you to the account recovery page. So students who don't know any information can plug in where it says the very first option, EPCC username. They click there where it says forget username and plug in their ID and they will get their username. Once they have that information, they can come down here to regain access to their EPCC account. Okay, so typically if it's a brand new student to the college, they have a default password. It's capital E, capital P, capital C, C dash, the 2 days of their birth month, day, and the year. I don't know if it works exactly the same for dual credit students. I would assume it does because they are brand new students. But really the easiest thing to do is to use this account recovery page. Okay. All right, let's move on. So once students are able to gain access into Blackboard, they're going to land on what's called the activity stream, the activity page in Blackboard. They'll see a menu on the left that is called the base navigation, or the ultra base navigation, UBN, and there'll be a link on that menu. I believe it's the 4th link down. It says courses. They click on that link, it'll take them to their courses page. And then they can use a drop-down menu in the center of the page to navigate to the correct term. So they will either select current term or fall 2025. They're both the same. And any courses that are open to them for the fall term will appear right on that page. They simply click on the course card. Course cards can appear in grid format or in list format. They simply click on that course card, it'll open the course, and they start with the first item at the top of the course, which is typically kind of a start here folder, learning module, maybe an introductory video, depends on the instructor, but usually that first week, of course, the first couple of days is always looking over the syllabus and introductory activities. Okay. All right. So a couple of FAQs about Blackboard courses. The topic of facilitator access has already been discussed, so I'm going to go ahead and skip that. Sometimes we do get questions about opening courses in Blackboard early, because at your high schools, at your districts, you do start school a few weeks before we do. We cannot open courses. Courses are set by Banner. Banner is our official student information system. It keeps the official records for everything at the college, from enrollment to assignments to even employment. Banner keeps record of everything, and those dates and times are set by Banner, which are set by the registrar and higher powers. Courses cannot be opened early, so you have those first few weeks to do some activities with students to help prepare them for their college courses. What if a student has access to Blackboard, they click into the course and there is no content in the course? What if the course is empty? There's a couple of reasons why that can happen. In many cases, it's because of last minute shifts in assignments. An instructor was assigned a course last minute, those kinds of things, literally last minute, like that first day of class, those kinds of things can happen. And so the instructor may need some time to post some content, but if you feel it's a bit suspicious that there is no content in the course, you can certainly reach out to the dual credit office or the distance learning office, and we will contact the academic dean's office just to let them know, because they may or may not know that there is no content in that course yet, and so that we can address that immediately. Now, what if the student can log into Blackboard, but there are no courses for the Blackboard, in Blackboard for the student, excuse me. So all the information in Blackboard is provided by Banner, our student information system. Blackboard does not do anything independently, okay? And the information goes one way from Banner into Blackboard. That includes users, both faculty and students, faculty assignments, and student enrollments. And so if a student's course is not showing in Blackboard, the first question is, has that student been officially enrolled in the course? Because it won't pop in or won't populate in Blackboard until it's processed in Banner. So that's the first question. Has the student been officially registered for that course? And I believe someone on your campuses has access to those Banner rosters to ensure that they've been registered for that course. Now, if the student is showing up on that Banner roster, the next question is, when were they enrolled? The communication from Banner to Blackboard is not instant, unfortunately. It is not instant. Banner communicates to Blackboard 3 times a day, 7 a.m., 3 p.m., and 7 p.m., which means if the dual credit office registers a student in that dual credit course in Banner at 8 a.m. in the morning, that student won't be populated into Blackboard into that course until 3 p.m., till the data run at 3 p.m. Same thing, if they're registered into that course in Banner at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, Banner will not send that data to Blackboard until the next data run at 7 p.m. So unfortunately, it does take a little bit of time for that data to catch up. Now, if it's been 24 hours and that student you know for certain has been registered into the course and that course is still not popping up in Blackboard, that's when you reach out to us to distance learning so that we can figure out what's going on. Because sometimes that communication is not always perfect. I like to say there are glitches in the matrix sometimes. Technology is not infallible, so we can figure out what's going on. Okay? All right, let's move on. So many of us, all of us who use Blackboard are probably familiar with the black screen of death. No need to panic. If you've been working in Blackboard, whether you're an instructor or a student, and you leave Blackboard open a little too long without actually working in it, you may get this screen. And what it does is it locks you out as a security measure. Blackboard thinks that maybe you walked away and forgot to log out of Blackboard, and it doesn't want to leave your account vulnerable to anyone walking by who can just, get on the computer and work in your account. So it logs you out. So if you get this black screen, you click that gray or silver button that says return to login page. Most cases, it's probably not going to work. If that doesn't work, close your browser completely, reopen the browser, log right back into Blackboard, and it should clear it up. However, there are those occasions where it still doesn't clear that up. And what the student will then need to do is clear the browser history. The cache hasn't been closed in quite a while. They need to clear that out, clear all that junk, all that gunk, so that the browser can work at optimal levels, and it'll let the student right back in. Okay, so it's just a clearing browser issue. All right, moving on. Blackboard Assist. So once the student logs into Blackboard, on that same menu where students see the courses, there is another tab called Assist. This is a student portal page. This particular page has a list of EPCC resources and shortcuts, links to those resources in the event students need assistance. For example, there is a link to the dual credit website. There is a link to the dual credit advisors. There's a link to the libraries, to tutoring, things of that nature. There's even a link to a document showing you how to clear your browser history using all the different browsers available: Safari, Firefox, Chrome, Edge. So if students don't know how to clear their browser history, they can use that. Although if you can't get into Blackboard, then you can't access it. Just Google it. They know how to Google. There are lots of different resources available on that particular page, including the student handbook, which we'll talk about in a moment. Students can download that handbook, print it out. Well, don't print it out. It's a lot of pages. Perhaps email it to you, and you can have a copy of the Learning with Blackboard Student Handbook so that you can look over and provide students some support from that handbook. Moving on. Lockdown Browser. So if you're not familiar with Lockdown Browser and Monitor, it is an application, a test proctoring application that faculty can use along with their exams, their tests or quizzes to ensure students' identity, to ensure that students are taking their own exams, but also to ensure that students are not using unauthorized materials. So if the instructor says you may not use notes, books, devices during your exam, the web camera that records the students as they're taking their exam will help confirm that, okay? So this application needs to be downloaded and installed onto a computer in order for students to use it. But for dual credit early college high school students, that should already be installed on your school or district devices. Our office ensures that your school district IT teams and school IT teams have this particular software and have installed it on all the students' laptops. Now, if a student chooses at home to take an exam using a personal laptop, mom or dad's laptop, or they have their own laptop, they would need to download and install Lockdown Browser. There is no cost to them, but they do have to make sure that they download our version of Lockdown Browser. They simply can't Google Lockdown Browser because other schools who use Respondus have their own version of Lockdown Browser. Okay, so the computers should all have it, the students should have it all on their computers already. They should have it on their computers already. If they say they don't, then that's when they need to contact their IT departments at their school, at their districts immediately. Okay, now we do know of an issue that has been happening for about a year, which is with some school districts, the firewall, which is necessary to help protect the school and the district devices and to protect students and to keep them from going into questionable websites, that same firewall is blocking sometimes EPCC content like maybe UJA, Collaborate. In some cases, it was blocking the monitor, the webcam, from the testing process. And unfortunately, that's not a Respondus issue. That's not a Blackboard issue. That's an IT, a school or district-wide IT issue with the firewall. So we've been working with these districts to help ensure that that firewall allows those important websites to go through so the students can use them. But if you do experience something like that as a facilitator, if you see that students, all your students, if it's just one student having the issue, then it's probably not a firewall issue. But if all your students are having the same issue, it's so important that you report that to us immediately, especially when it's technology related. That is definitely distance learning. You give us a call so that we can get out there. We will literally drive out to the campus. It'll be Ugo, our LMS admin. He will drive out there so we can figure out what's going on. We don't want to hear about these issues in October and November. That has happened before. We need to know immediately. Okay, better to be safe than sorry. No tech issue is too small. Alrighty. Okay. Let's move on here. College email. So they were our dual credit coordinators have already mentioned the importance of students checking their college email. Yes, they will receive an email asking them to complete their evaluations. Those are very important. But college email is also linked to Blackboard. So let's move on here to the next slide. So one of the ways that Blackboard is linked to their college email is that students receive copies of course announcements in their Blackboard email. They may receive reminders in their Blackboard email, but most importantly, they'll receive assignment and test submission receipts. When a student submits an exam, a test, or an assignment in Blackboard, they receive a receipt saying that they've successfully submitted that assessment. And should Blackboard eat their homework, because gone are the days of dog ate my homework, now it's Blackboard ate my homework. If the student insists that they submitted an assignment or an assessment, they should have that email in their college email as proof that they submitted that assessment. If there is no email from Blackboard, then they did not submit that assessment. So that is their proof. So make sure they check their college email regularly. And make sure they do not delete those receipts, because that is their proof of purchase if you will. That is the evidence that they submitted receipts. Now, I want to mention one more thing about receipts and assignments. If the assignment requires students to upload a file, an essay, a research paper, the receipt will also indicate the size of the file. Because some students have been trying to get extra time on that assignment by submitting the assignment with nothing attached and saying Blackboard must have corrupted my file or what have you. But there's evidence on that receipt that shows with a big goose egg that, thank you, Ms. Lorena, I forgot to do that, with a big goose egg showing that that the size of the file is 0. So they did not attach anything. And Ms. Lorena is pointing that out on the image on the screen. This is what the receipt looks like on the screen when it pops up, but they'll get the exact same information in their email. The name of the course, the name of the assessment, the date, the time down to the minute that they submitted the assignment, whether it was auto-submitted or the student submitted it themselves, along with a confirmation number. And that confirmation number, the instructor can plug into the gradebook and see if it matches any assignments in that particular course. So those submission receipts are vital. Again, those are that proof of purchase, if you will, that the student submitted coursework. Okay? All right. I mentioned the handbook. The 2025-26 handbook is ready. We used to put out a handbook every semester, but now we're doing a year-long handbook. So again, students can access this handbook through the assist page in Blackboard. Have them download it and provide it to you so that you have it available. It may be the next couple of days. Tomorrow's Thursday, Friday. You can go over the handbook with students the next couple of days before the term begins, but you'll have it ready for the spring semester. If your courses start a little bit before ours do, you can use that handbook and go over it with students. Lots of great information and guidance for students. And if you see anything that's missing, you see typos, errors, please do let us know. We are more than happy to fix those. Okay. All right, where to go for assistance. This is very important. By the way, that information is in that handbook too. Let's move on here. So I mentioned your high school or district devices. If students need it or they're experiencing, issues with their school issued device, their high school issued device, they need to reach out to their ISD or campus technology department immediately. Things like browser issues, the installing of lockdown browser, things of those nature. We have no access to those devices. We can't troubleshoot them. So that has to be within their school IT department, and those need to be addressed immediately. Okay, moving on. Now, if there are issues with Blackboard, Respondus lockdown browsers, such as the student has it on their device, but the test isn't working, something of that nature, issues with Collaborate, Smarter Measure, or UJA, which is one of our newest technologies, that is definitely distance learning. Those specific technologies are handled by our department. And there are lots of ways to get in touch with us. We have a virtual office. If you just go to the EPCC website, type in DLSS and go to our page, there's a green Get Connected button, and students or even facilitators can pop into our virtual office Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 p.m. Okay, now what if this is off after hours or it's before 8 o'clock? Make sure that students know that they have access to the Blackboard Help Desk 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's a toll-free number, 1-888-296-0863. They can call that number for technical assistance. Now, this is for technical assistance. It's not going to help them with things like my course isn't showing in Blackboard. That's a registration issue. The Blackboard Help Desk is for technical issues only. Okay, moving on. Now, we do have a Blackboard Help Desk poster that has the phone number with a QR code also for additional resources for students. If you would like a copy of this poster, it's not a huge poster, it's a nice little poster, or you would like several copies of this poster, please email us at dlss@epcc.edu. Give us your name, what campus and district you're from, and how many posters you would like, and we'll get those to you. Either We'll drop them, well, more than likely we'll drop them off at your district office so they can put them into your intra-campus mail and get them out to you that way. That's the easiest thing for us to do. Unless the high school's really close by, we can certainly drop them off. But we will get a poster or a few posters to you. These are great for computer labs, classrooms, libraries, anywhere your dual credit students congregate on your campus. It's a great poster to put up on the wall. Okay. All right. Now, if students are having issues with My EPCC, their login credentials, their email, web banner, Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Office 365, OneDrive, all of those issues, that is the purview of the IT department. Remember, we only do Blackboard, Respondus, UJA, Collaborate, what am I missing? Smarter Measure. Okay, all other technologies at the college are handled by the EPCC IT department. Okay, right, moving on. Now, if the students have issues or questions about the coursework, instructions, what do I do? How do I do it? If there's supposed to be a quiz, the instructor says, don't forget your quiz is due today, but the students can't find the quiz. There are technical issues that keep students from submitting their coursework. They should be notifying their instructor immediately. Immediate communication, as Ms. Sue mentioned earlier, is the key. Or I think it might have been Lorena, or both. Both of you mentioned it. If they miss deadlines, issues with publisher content, required course materials, meeting dates and times, office hours, third-party software applications, they should always reach out to their instructor first. Okay. We find that a vast majority of issues are not tech issues, they're user issues. Either the instructor maybe didn't open the test when they were supposed to, or the student's not looking in the right place, those kinds of things. But we can't answer questions with regard to how the instructor is managing their course because we aren't the instructor of record. So instructor is always that first point of contact for the student. If it is a technical issue, the instructor will definitely say, well, please contact IT or please contact distance learning. But the instructor is always that first point of contact. Okay. And I think that's it. So I think there's a couple of questions in the chat. Lockdown browser. Struggle with dual credits because the school did not install the lockdown browser on time. All the school districts should have already lockdown browser installed. If you see that it's not, and you work at, if you're an EPCC instructor, let us know so that we can reach out to those school districts and check up on them to make sure that they do that. Okay. Yes, so I feel you, Mr. Flores. I know that students are asked to come to campus to confirm their identities, and dual credit students can't do that. And unfortunately, I don't have a fix for that because that is IT. I wish I had an answer for you. I think that's definitely something that perhaps needs to be addressed. Maybe the dual credit committee, we can address that with IT. If the IT committee meets, I'm supposed to be a member on that team, I can certainly bring that up to them. And then where can you access student handbook to review it with your students? Remember, students will have access to that handbook through Blackboard. Have them download it for you and send it to you so that they can you can review that with them. Okay. And Ms. Garreta, oh, please go ahead.
Yeah, the last question about getting the access to the PowerPoint. Yes, you can. It's already on the dual credit website. So if you navigate to that site, click on documents. At the very bottom is the professional development section, and you'll see DC Connections, fall 2025. So that's the PowerPoint that we just shared, went through right now. I'll update it once the recording is up on our college YouTube page, so then you can also use that as a reference. Are there any other questions? Thank you so much, Luz. Yes, and Catherine just posted that right now, the link to the documents page.
Hi, everybody. I posted a long answer to the IT issue. Hopefully that helps. It's quite an essay, but just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you, Eddie, for the IDs, correct?
Yes,
Perfect.
that for their ID numbers, or if they need to, anything that they need to update, whether that's an EPCC, excuse me, a personal email, Gmail, if they need to update their student address, if it's the, let me see what else, a phone number,
Eddie,
anything that is
can you
direct.
turn on your camera because the interpreters needs to see you?
Oh, it says that I can't. Oh, there we go.
You can now.
Turn it on now. Okay. Am I? Oh, sorry. I had the thing covered. So the virtual office of admissions can assist students with updating any of their directory information, whether that's an email, personal email, phone number, address, trying to think what else, ID number, and also should there be an issue with the account recovery, the Office of Admissions has the capacity to reset the password. So please encourage your students to practice early self-advocacy and reach out on their own. You can be there with them, of course, and it's much appreciated. And that way they can go ahead and start going to these offices, and it's virtual, so they don't need to go on campus. I think sometimes there is a little bit of miscommunication in the terminology that we use in higher education and the one that is used in K through 12, and students might miscommunicate, or we might miscommunicate as well. And so please have them connect with the Office of Admissions virtually, and they'll be able to assist them.
I see Brittany has
Thank
her
you,
hand
Eddie.
up.
Hi, yes, I just had a quick question about the students getting enrolled. If they're not enrolled by the 25th, will the instructor be willing to work with the kids who are enrolled later in the course?
Ibadio, do you want to field that question?
Right. Well, that's a tricky question, right? The admissions and registration specialist prioritize enrollment into online courses, right? Because we know that they have to start. And so if the students have not been enrolled, that means that the schools did not provide information in a timely manner. And then our faculty are fantastic. They're super flexible, but there's always a limit, right, to the amount of flexibility that they can have. And so hopefully the schools are prompt in submitting correct registration information so that then that is not a problem.
But that could also be a good place where the facilitator can communicate with the instructor,
Right.
just to let them know what was going on. I think the explanation of sometimes things happen can occur at that point.
The problem is that if the student's not registered, then they wouldn't know, right?
Right, but once
Because
if they're in the class, if they
Once they
get
get
put in a
in,
little
yeah.
bit later.
Right.
Yeah, there's
right.
been special cases where that happens.
Of course.
Any other questions? I know we're at 6 o'clock. I've been posting a quick evaluation. If you could fill that out for us, let us know how we're doing. And just to wrap things up, we do have the date of our next dual credit conference. We're scheduled for Friday, October 25th, so save the date, think about coming. If you would like to present, please reach out to Sue or myself, and we will for sure welcome any presentations from your side of things, EPCC side of things. We really appreciate the participation.
We'll send you a proposal form, right?
Yes, yes. And I know there was a request for the sign-in link. I'm going to post it again here in case anybody missed it. But thank you all for joining us on this nice rainy day. I hear the rain outside now at my house, so
Oh,
we appreciate We appreciate you all joining us. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Have a great semester.